Aloha, everyone. Michelle Melendez with Blossom Inner Wellness, standtogetherhawaii.com. If you are listening on the Voice of Kona Radio, mahalo so much for joining me on the Big Island. And we're also on Sovereign Radio, sovereignradio.com. So I'm excited to be a part of that platform as well. Today, I get to interview Christopher Switzer. He is the founder of Freedom Ministry. He's also a journalist. He has been studying the occult, the powers that be, the Bible for many, many years, and we're going to be talking about the war with Iran because this guy has been sharing that this war is coming for a very, very long time, and he's got some insights that I know you guys will really want to hear. So Christopher, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Very much appreciate being here.
So just to do a quick plug for you, Christopher, Freedom Ministry, is it the freedomministry.org or .com? And I know that we're republicbroadcasting.org is a place they can find you as well.
Yeah, republicbroadcasting.org. You would also go to bitchute.com/the freedom ministry.
Got it. All right, you guys. So that's where to follow him. So when I was first reading about you and about your BitChute channel, you were already talking about the war with Iran before it even happened. So
Yes.
can you talk? Can you share with us what's that about? Like, how did you know what
Sure.
went on?
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to the Greater Israel Project, which is something that the extreme, right or the religious right, those who back Benjamin Netanyahu today over in Israel, they're gunning for this. The neoconservatives in America have been gunning for this since the Clinton administration. It's the Greater Israel Project. In American policy, though, back in the Clinton administration, they actually wrote this up, calling it a project for a new American century. That was the title of this, or the PNAC report. So this was written by a bunch of neoconservative guys, Republicans, if you will, who were pro-Israel, pro-Zionism, and they wanted this thing to come about. And so did Netanyahu, and push came to shove with 9/11, which they had their fingerprints all over. Drum roll Patriot Act and all of that. And once that was initiated, it gave them their pretext to go into war with these Middle Eastern countries:
Mhm.
Iraq, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Syria, Libya. Some of these I've named, they've already toppled, you know, but these were all on the chopping block back in the late 90s. And then
Wow.
9/11 happened, giving them the pretext, like I said, to go into these countries and invade. And who was originally friends with them became enemies. They turn on people real quick. Saddam Hussein was originally a friend. They turned on him. Gaddafi was not always friendly, but not necessarily viewed as their enemy until he was. So they've really taken out their opponents where they see fit, and they create these color revolutions and these different types of revolutions, Arab, Islamic revolution, whatever they want to call it. And it's just for regime change. It's just to go into these countries with a pretext. They usually use false flag attacks and such. I mentioned 9/11, which I believe to be a big one. And they'll use many more to get us into many more wars to come, because this is endless, Michelle. This is
That's right. Yeah.
endless.
So when you say they, who are you talking about?
Um, well, they're proponents of Zionism,
Mhm.
big time, which means to see the completion and protection of a state for the Jews in Israel at all costs. There is nothing that is off the table when it comes to protecting that notion, which is Zionism.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that they're Jews necessarily, although
Mhm.
by and large, a Zionist is usually Jewish, but they don't have to be. And a big quotable is from the previous president, Joe Biden, who said, my father was a Zionist, and he said, you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. I'm a Zionist. And that's a really known quotable from Joe Biden. So you don't have to be Jewish to be Zionist, but
So what makes
go
Zionist?
ahead. Again,
You're kind of sorry, you're cutting out just a little bit.
okay, can you hear me well?
Okay, yeah, it might be mine though. Mine just said that you're unstable. So what makes somebody, excuse me, what makes somebody a Zionist?
Somebody who puts their allegiance with the Israeli state and their aims, at all costs. There are politicians in the United States government right now who
Hmm.
lay a claim and allegiance to Israel above America. I mean, it doesn't matter if they say otherwise, their actions speak different. They
That's
will put that little nation state above all other interests, and that's Zionism. And there's a large faction alive today who are pushing for war, and they're by and large Zionists.
mhm. How did, because 80% or more of our Congress has a dual citizenship with Israel.
Hmm.
I'm curious, how did Israel get into the United States like this? Like, how did the Zionists get into this? This was supposed to be a free country with our founding fathers, but this has been going on for a very long time. They have really gotten into this for a lot
Yeah.
longer than just this war.
Yeah, that's very true. There's quotes from some of the founding fathers speaking out against Jews. They call them Jews, in these quotes that I'm talking about. But they knew that they didn't assimilate, and whatever their ideas were, they kept them, and they would always push for those ideas, regardless of the host nation that is letting them come into. They're going to do their own thing, and they've proven to do their own thing over years and years and years. The expulsions are very widely known, that sort of thing, and it's the extremist factions within them causing these things, but this is what they've done. This is, the historical record.
Yeah. What
Yeah,
is what is their goal? What is their goal with this? Because you are correct. It is ongoing wars. And what blows my mind the most is that by now, with all of our technology and understanding of being human, it's to keep doing wars. It's for me, it's so blatantly obvious that it's about money. It's about money and control, and that's but so
yeah.
how yeah, I'll just give it back to you.
It's world conquest. I mean, it sounds like silly and kind of like, okay, you're really putting it on the nose there. But really, in their own words, it's world domination. It's the conquest of nations and, putting together a one world government, a new world order, and erasing all other religions save their own, which is secular humanism, really, at its core. But
Mhm.
Judaism kind of fits in there, believe it or not, with a lot of their core values because they don't get their core values from the Bible, if you will. They get it from the Talmud and other Jewish religious texts that come largely out of Babylon,
Mhm.
and ancient areas over there. But it's men's ideas. It's not the scripture that you would hear about in a Southern Baptist church, for example. Although a lot of Southern Baptist church are Zionist and pro-Zionist, but they don't know what they don't know, unfortunately.
That's correct. That kind of brings me to like the Star of David when a lot of Jews
Yes.
they think that the Star of David is something that is, was part of the reign of David, of the king of King David, but that's not really what it's from. What
No.
I'm just going to give it back to you because I know that you know the answer.
Sure.
Where the Star of David actually comes from.
Yes, yes. It's the Star of Bohemia or the Star of Remphan, the Star of Moloch, the Star of Kiyun, if you will. But it's not the Star of David, no. It's not even of, Hebraic origin, if you will. Some could argue it's Jewish origin because the Jews, can be traced back to Babylonian times and stuff like that. But it's not the Hebraic origin that you've been told, to believe with the House of David, etc. The ancient Israelites never used it as their symbol.
Mhm.
It was never a religious symbol. It was never any type of symbol like that. And the very sign of the Jew in today's world, the six-pointed Star of David, is not really the historic symbol of Jewry at all, nor was it ever used by Israelites. It became the emblem of their people in 1897 when their quote unquote founder, Theodore Herzl, the Zionist founder, convened the Zionist conference, and they chose it as their insignia, to kick off their movement publicly. So it became their emblem. And then they said, oh, it's for the 12 tribes to unite in the land of Israel. But not one tribe ever used this quote unquote Star of David,
Mhm.
Michelle. None of them. None of them. So it cannot be tied back historically nor biblically at all. They've literally just invented it from the occult doctrine and their own religious stuff from the Talmud.
So what religion is Zionism coming from? What's the basis of it? Because if it's is it Judaism? I'm
Yes, but not solely. It's not exclusive, right? I mentioned secular humanism.
mhm.
I mentioned it. Oh, I didn't mention it yet, but Satanism, at its core, communism. It's all these isms, but it really comes down to Satanism, and they care about themselves over all else. It's the Jew among all else, unfortunately. If you look at the Talmudic writings, their core values promote self. It's selfish. It's ego driven. It's very much patriarchal. Um, it's not driven by the same values that you would find from a quote unquote Christian, from somebody who's reading from the New Testament, from anybody that even follows Torah as it is in the scriptures, because it says to behave a certain way. And you'll see it in the Beatitudes from Matthew chapter 5, if you want to know what it's like to really, be of the way, the truth, and the light. You have to be behaving these ways. And if you're not, you're not. I don't care if you profess to be, your actions show me different. You judge a tree by its fruit. And this little nation state over in the Middle East occupying Palestine today, folks, that call themselves Israel but are not, their fruit is disturbing. It's ugly. They have some terrible fruit. So that's what they're producing. They are not those spoken of who follow Yahweh in the scriptures, unfortunately. They're men with an agenda, and it's worldly.
Yes, and I just want to say too that I personally do not believe it's all Jewish people. I have Jewish
Sure.
friends I adore.
Yeah.
This is an occult, and it goes back. And I my belief is it goes back thousands of years, and they actually I
Yes.
believe it came from Khazaria, because of the Khazarian Empire back in
Yeah.
yeah back in the day, and they actually chose Judaism because it was the closest to their religion, and then basically hijacked it and turned it into
Yeah.
what it is today for their own purposes. And but what do you think is this war as far as Trump goes? What do you think about Trump and his part playing in this
Sure. Yeah,
role?
great question. I think he is firstly, I think it was a brilliant stroke of, genius to pick the guy, to be honest, if I was seeking their outcomes, right? I don't necessarily think it's good for us, but he is one to usher in exactly what he's ushering in, which I believe is the beast system through this AI, biometric data, and everything moving towards being injected with these nanoparticles and all this stuff. And he said it, he said as much with partnering with these big corporations and Elon Musk and Oracle and all these different companies. But it's going to be the 10 kings of the prophecies in the scriptures will be the 10 AI data centers that they're building right now. And they want to just control everything and bring the utter collapse and the moral fabric of the nations all around the world to come to their knees and serve the dark side, if you will, to serve the sons of darkness rather than the sons of light. And it's almost a self-fulfilling prophecy. You could say, well, he doesn't exist, and this stuff's written by men, and they're just trying to fulfill the stuff they've written. It kind of looks like that sometimes, but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will, because this stuff is happening. It will happen. It just matters what you do in your own, little part of the world that you've carved out, and how you want to be remembered by your family, and what values you want to instill in your family and stuff like that. And like you've said, I don't think it's all Jews. No, unfortunately, I think that they've been born into a very corrupt religious theocracy, and it's something that they're oppressed. They're an oppressed people. They really are. And a lot of them come out of it, and a lot of them are scared to come out of it, and they just feel comfortable in their environment. But no, it's not all Jewish people. I just feel like just like Christianity, I think that's been hijacked as well for bad purposes, and both both of those religions. So
Yeah.
absolutely, Michelle.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And so, and let me check I want to make sure the nuclear war, because they keep going, nuclear war is going to happen.
Mm,
Now they're saying that the attack on Iran destroyed their nukes, or at least hindered them.
mm-hmm.
And there's supposed to be a meeting tomorrow. What do you think about nuclear war? I personally don't think it's going to happen. I think it's a scare
Yeah.
tactic for
Oh
people
yeah.
to be afraid.
No, that you said it right there. It's fear. It's fear, which is control, right? So absolutely. And I'm not totally convinced that nuclear weaponry, as they want us to believe it works, is even in existence. And whether it is or isn't, it serves the same purpose. Okay. It's the mutual destruction. If that option is there as a deterrent on the global stage, which it is, right? Just because they say it is, it is. So whether or not it's even actually there as an option that could literally obliterate the world if we've been told the truth, I don't know. But what I do know is this. Nordau has been empty. The supposed icing on the cake that Trump took out, their gem jewel nuclear facility, that was empty for several months. They already evacuated. So that place wasn't even making nuclear energy or anything for Iran. The other two facilities, I believe, were operational, but not on a weapon, type stage where they were enriching any weapons. But they weren't hit as hard as Nordau was hit. Nordau was like the one that they actually used the munitions that were big enough to go down further enough to actually take it out. But it was almost just for show, for headlines, I guess, because it was empty. So I really don't know, Michelle. I don't know if they're real. I've read books that prove otherwise almost. And but the still, like I said, that Samson option or the option of mutual destruction by pushing a button still exists in people's minds, and it's very much used politically and otherwise for leverage. So they're going to keep using it as they've always used it. But I think we're going to see more of the same. I think we're going to see more weather warfare, more directed energy weapons. We're going to see more regular, weaponry with modern war, missiles and bombers and all that stuff, smart bombs. But I don't really think we're going to see a nuke come out. The threat of
I
it,
I
yes.
100% agree with you. And everything I feel like everything they tell us isn't just an absolute lie.
Mm,
And so many different ways and different things that they tell us. And they need us to be afraid, because when people are afraid, they're easily controlled. And I
mm-hmm,
believe it was a Nazi colonel was asked, how did you get the people to do this,
mm-hmm.
to turn on their neighbors and whatnot. And he said, if you get people afraid enough, they will walk themselves into their own slaughter. And
Yeah.
it was during the Nuremberg Code trials. So
Mm-hmm.
100% agree with you. Just looking at my notes here again, the what do you feel as far as weather wars? Because I thought it was really interesting. All of a sudden, Iran gets this massive earthquake, and
Yeah.
people are. It's like when they keep spouting climate change, and there's all of these floods in China and floods in Dubai, and now this earthquake in Iran. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on the weather warfare? I feel like it's different factions of people going at each other. I mean, we had Canada had millions of acres burning, United States, tons of fires.
Sure.
So what do you think about the weather warfare?
Yeah, I think we're gonna keep seeing it. Like I said, they definitely have the patents and the technology to do it. They've proven that they are not shy to do it. I just don't know sometimes if it's happening. Like the earthquake. Is it? Is it? I don't know. But certainly with some events, like as being the author of the book you've written, they're just too obvious. Like, okay, that's directed energy weaponry. I know it is. There's way too much evidence here, but some you just don't know. But they very well could set off fault lines or trigger seismic events, and all types of stuff. So I don't know if they're going to pull that into this war arena, this war theater in the Middle East that we're seeing with Iran. But we're certainly going to see them doing more of the same, I believe, with their regular status quo modern, war regalia that they use. Um, but I don't know if we're going to see something like a Maui, or Paradise, or I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that. So is and it's so interesting. So many people when I was because I'm going to be speaking at the Red Pill Expo, and I was being interviewed by Edward Griffin, and I said, "Do you know
Mm,
this was when over 1 million acres were burning in Canada?" And he didn't even know. Like that, so many people don't even know
yeah,
that there have been a ton of fires, millions of acres
yeah.
that burned, and so I just want to let people know that um, that has happened, and they do have, like Christopher was saying, they do have patents, weather modification patents. The first one was in 1891 to produce rain. So if they had a patent in 1891 to produce rain, and they have actually used that technology, and the Vietnam War, I think, was the first time they used it, they could put out fires if they wanted to. But
Oh
Chris,
yeah.
what do you think? How can people, like, is there an out for us? Do you see a way that the people can bring back freedom? Like, I love the Freedom Ministry. That is the name of your of one of your podcasts. It's so perfect. How can we bring back freedom to the United States and to
Sure.
the world?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, at this point, I don't see the system that they have made for America, if you will, as something that's like salvageable or something I could reconcile in my own life, and make it work as a solution for freedom, absolute freedom in my own life, because it's designed to keep you enslaved.
Yeah,
So you could pull every trick out and try to do this, that, and everything else to game the system, but it's designed to beat you, into submission. So what I see as a solution, Michelle, would be to create, your own niche communities. You have to get off the grid. You have to be familiar with growing your own food, getting potable water to yourself if you don't already have it where you are. Um, all these things being less regulated, because once you start accepting their benefits in their system, you're going to be regulated. You're going to be told what to do, when you can do it, how to do it, and it's going to cost you. Believe me, it's going to cost you. There ain't nothing free in their world, but the some of the beautiful, most just blessed things in these world actually are free. They're just not going to be offered from the government or the state. It's not anything they tell you is free and they're giving you as a handout comes with, an adhesion contract. It's going to come with something that's going to tie you and hook you into their game, where they have something to get out of you, because they're not just doing it out of the kindness of their heart. This system is designed to pull blood from a stone, and you're that stone. That's exactly what it is. So
absolutely. Yeah.
more of that, just getting out of their system, growing your own food, getting together with others who are doing the same, so that when, the S hits the fan, you actually have people around that can help you. Because it's gonna get ugly when people get scared, and they don't know what to do, and they haven't prepared for this. And now, oh no, I have to feed my children. I have to do this and that. They can make some ugly decisions in those moments, unfortunately.
Absolutely. I've been saying that. I think there's going to be uh, two types of people, and one is the type that is controlled, stays in the system. The other type that is
Hmm.
exactly what you just said, gets off the grid, grows their own food, gets some chickens. I was
Mm,
interviewing an off-grid expert, and she said one of the first things people should do is get 6 chickens. She said, you get six
yeah.
chickens, you're going to have eggs, you're going to have breakfast every single morning. So,
Hmm.
so it's just stuff like that. Getting into a bartering system with your neighbors and getting to know your neighbors. They have
Yeah.
designed the societies now for us to be afraid of each other and not trusting each other. And
Yeah.
that definitely, if that definitely behooves their way of the world. So following your heart,
Sure.
doing what you're doing too, because you're sharing a lot of good things with your freedom ministry, and I really appreciate some of your podcasts. I was listening to one of them just right before our call.
Hmm.
So thank you so much for that. And any
Oh, of
lessons you want
course.
to share about the this war that's here? They have been planning it. What else should we be expecting?
Well, I don't know if they're going to try to enact a draft or anything like that, or how far this is actually going to go for American troops, or if it'll even amount to American troops on the ground. But it's not going to benefit Americans. I hope, people listening to this wouldn't think it would, but there are people who watch Fox News and, regular news who would think so, because they think like they're told in the church, that, to bless Israel is to bless us, and to curse Israel is to curse us. And, if we do anything against what Israel is doing, meaning them right now occupying Palestine over there in the Middle East, not the actual Israel of the scriptures, what it really is talking about. They think that we can't go against that, or we're cursed. They see it as they're actually going to be cursed, and it goes against their whole religious philosophy because the church said so. So there's that going on. There's a lot of dogma, a lot of indoctrination, and it all goes to fear. It wants to keep you scared, keep you not knowing, and those you would seek out in this limited knowledge, you know, um, scenario that they put you in, you're going to turn to those people in your church that are indoctrinated to tell you the same. They're controlled by their masters to keep their jobs. And if they say the wrong thing, they lose their job. We learned that during CV-19, right? The doctors, who started to tell the truth and speak up, felt the boot on their neck very quickly.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm so glad you coded that.
Yes, I understand.
It's like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe how many strikes. Every 90 days after I get out of YouTube probation, I get another strike.
Oh yeah.
The last one, Chris, was the interview that I did with Hawaii State Representative Ellie Cochran on the update of Lahaina. They said I
Hmm.
had a medical misinformation and gave me another strike. So I'm in YouTube probation again.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing about censorship and the violation of the First Amendment. But I do want to go back to
Yeah.
what you said. You quoted Henry Kissinger in the one of your last recordings I was listening to, and it said, and I'm not going to quote the whole thing because, but I just put
Yeah.
Israel will destroy themselves. Can you explain
Yes.
what that means?
Yeah, Henry Kissinger felt that Israel was too emboldened, by, their lashing out, if you will, which he saw them doing, and he felt that ultimately they were going to overplay their hand, and the world was not going to react kindly, and that somebody was going to destroy them, and it would ultimately be their own doing. Whether it happened because Iran finished the job or whoever did, it would be their own doing. And that's what he saw happening. And I ultimately see it almost coming to fruition right now before our very eyes. I think it's very poignant of Mr. Kissinger. And I don't like the man at all, but, a broken clock can even be right twice a day. So truth comes where it comes.
Yes, absolutely. So if that does happen, what does that mean for the war then? And what does that mean for the United States?
Yeah, the United States is going to be pulled into war as long as war exists, I believe. I don't think they could sit idly by with a hot war going on between Israel and ex-Arab country, whatever it is, be it Iran or otherwise. But people also have to realize that Israel couldn't have done what they did without the help of the world. It
Mhm.
was largely orchestrated by Israel, but with the help of Arab nation states. People mostly don't probably think of this, but the Arab nation states all surrounding that region, by and large, are Wahhabi Zionists. They are not what you think. They actually are for a pro-Zionist Israel. They don't want a Palestine to be free because it doesn't support what they've got going on behind the scenes with their gun trade, their drug trade, their cyber technology, for their country, and all the stuff they got going on to commit assassinations, and all types of stuff that they got going on. But they're
Mhm.
not going to go against that because that would be the biting the hand that feeds them, if you will. So we have the Arab Emirates, we have Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Jordan, Oman, Egypt, um, to just name a few that are like pro-Israel, whether they say it publicly or not, based on their bilateral trade agreements and what they have going on with technology trades and the more dark stuff on the black market with gun trades, intelligence stuff going on between their agencies. But it's right now geared against Iran and it's
Mhm.
Arab nation states with, helping Israel to do this.
Wow. Where does China and Russia come into the picture?
Good question. Good question. I think they will intervene where they see fit if their other interests become endangered. Like I was talking about the Belt and Road Initiative, which is largely to do with economics and trade. But again, all those things I mentioned come into these routes that they're going to be selling on, which would be the guns and the drugs and everything else, and regular stuff as well that they've always traded. But they're going to do almost anything to keep their positions viable in this economic model that they're setting up across the world. I don't think that they're in danger in any way of not seeing that happen. They may jump in if it's if things start to fall apart, they could jump in and be strong in those positions. But I don't really know how they would get involved in like a war with Iran at this point. But Russia, Iran, Israel, China, it's so strange because they all have relationships behind the scenes as well. Even Israel and Iran had economic relationships going on. Now they're fighting. So it's really hard to say. They make strange bedfellows, and you wouldn't really think it, but they're all in bed with each other at the end of the day. And the people, you and I, Michelle, are who gets the short end of the stick. That's the
That's
problem.
Yeah, when they throw their bombs, the people are the innocent
Hmm.
who just want to feed their family and want to live their lives are the ones that get murdered, and that's what makes me really, really sad about the whole thing. So many things do, but that's definitely the
Yeah.
top of the list. Chris, what do you think of this world? I'm like I'm kind of I'm on the side of this is some type of simulation, some type of I don't know what this is because there is an infinite creator of love. Absolutely. There is this, it's beating my heart and breathing my body and moving the sun and running the tides in the ocean. But there's also this evilness that is not as I can't even describe it. It's so evil that regular people like myself, I can't even fathom what they do to the children and what's allowed there. So I'm curious, what do you think this world is?
I'd say it probably is some sort of simulation, and there's a strong case to be made in scripture actually in the book Ecclesiastes, or otherwise known as the preacher or the convener. But it's very metaphysical, language. If you really read Ecclesiastes, it gets pretty metaphysical in that nature. And there's been whole presentations on YouTube about it talking about a simulated matrix reality type of thing, and that very much could be the case because I think there are other dimensions, at least in physics and locality and time and space and all of that we can't see. But when the conditions are right, we may experience, maybe, and some people have, and they write about it and all types of stuff. But it's the world is not what we think it is, and I think science, technology catches up with lots of these ancient texts, not just the scriptures, but the scriptures big time. And
Mhm.
things start to make sense as we understand technology, which in a few hundred years prior would be considered magic or sorcery, because we just don't know how it works. That's all.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so we talked a little bit about Zionism being from Satanism. So
Hmm.
do you feel that there is an actual deity or a Satan, a demon entity? I don't know what else to call it. It's
Yeah, an angel. Yes, I do believe that. Yes, he fell because he rebelled and wanted to be higher than the Most High or like the Most High, and he rebelled because he saw what was going on with Father's creation us, man, and jealousy emerged. And how dare he, this puny creation. And he's so great. And it didn't, go well or in his mind. And he took a third with him, it says, and they rebelled. And we are to see the factions growing that would be more aligned to him or the sons of darkness than the light, than Yahweh. And those factions are at odds today.
Hmm.
So we're going to see a lot going on
Yeah.
happening in the world today. But it's just man. It's man. It's nothing to fear but fear itself. They can only take our lives, and if we understand that this isn't final, I believe this is a test. We're in a test, and I believe it is a simulation. And if I go out doing the things that I believe my family would appreciate me doing and that they'd love me for, and that people would actually say, "Oh, that's a guy who loved his family," then I'm okay. I can go out knowing that I did what I should have, and I'll know that it's not over. That's not final. But to do what they're doing in whoever's name, whatever they claim it is evil. It's wicked. You see it in their results. The consequences, the actions, the aftermath, the bloodshed, the torn families.
Yeah, absolutely. That is it too, right there. The torn families, so many things of the with the drag queens talking story and giving stories
Yeah.
to the children, all of it, it's all to tear apart the families. So, and I actually
Yes.
see families here on the Big Island where the children, they don't get on the internet. There's no internet for them. They're off grid. They don't have cell phones. And the kids are so sweet and
Yes.
kind and fun to be around. And it's just a relief. It's really a
That's
relief.
awesome. That is so cool. Yeah, these tablet children today, it's really a shame.
Yeah.
It is a shame. It really is that they know how to do all that, but they want how to know how to do things outside, like in the
Mm.
world. It really is a big issue. I think that's where things need to change. We need to be teaching our children um, what adults should be doing that aren't doing necessarily. There's lots of wisdom in children, I believe, because they
Oh,
they they get broken down.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, and told they're
Yeah.
wrong.
Yes. Well, Chris, I always end with a prayer. Would you like to pray today? Because I know that you.
Sure, sure. I will just make a declaration that those who love light and love life and hold humanity dear to them command themselves and be disciplined enough in their own person, their own being, um, to be a witness and an example to that love and to actually do it. Don't make it just your words, but as James said in the scriptures, half brother of Yahweh, the Messiah, he said, don't just be, preachers of the word, be doers. You have
Mhm.
to be doers of the word because faith without works is dead. So please, I make it my declaration today that those be of love and light actually be of love and light. Show that in their works. Make it be known so that we can know one another when we see each other, and that light will shine.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes. And so it is. I love it. I love it. All right, you guys, check out Chris Switzer, his podcast, his The Freedom Ministry, and also republicbroadcasting.org. Go check them out. Go donate to support their ministry over there. Much mahalo for joining me, Chris. Aloha.
Thank you. Thank you. Shalom, shalom.